Hey, this is David Hilster. This is Dissident Science Friday, where I'm live. You can interact with me online from anywhere around the world. I do have people from around the world, and it starts now. Hey, David Hilster, and today I'm going to be talking about different types of new models out there. I've been thinking a lot about this because we have our website coming up, and we have this problem, of course, that many people believe there's only one model in the universe, there's only one way to look at it, and therefore we must choose one. And there's actually a lot of dissidents who believe that, and a lot of them actually think their model is correct. And that's okay. But as a person who is trying to get everybody together to try to get people to come up with new models, because we are in a model crisis in Kuhnian terms, because Thomas Kuhn was a person who, a physicist and philosopher who wrote about paradigm shift. In fact, I think he came up with the term paradigm shift. He wrote that in the 1970s. And since then, that's what they've been talking about, is paradigm shift, and he uses some certain past events in science as paradigm shifts. And my claim, and is on our website, that is coming out, and we continue to work on it. I continue to gather people, and that website is Science Woke. You can go to sciencewoke.org, sign up for it, because when we launch, you'll be able to read it. I've got people actually who are, in fact, looking at it and helping out with that, and that's taking a look at it before we go live. But I've been working over almost a year on this. It's not easy because this kind of thing doesn't exist. So it's basically a science magazine for those who are science woke or who want to be science woke. And I greatly appreciate everybody's patronage, and I know that I continue to get subscribers who are new. I welcome everyone here. I am a person who's been involved with critical thinkers since the early 1990s. I have lots of books and been studying a lot about how people think outside the mainstream, what are the problems they see, and what kinds of solutions they're coming up with. And I've only been surrounded by some of the most brilliant minds, in my opinion, for decades. And I'm here because I'm one of those big picture people who can sort of see everything that's going on, but see the big picture of things and can try to communicate that. In fact, I spent a lot of my time trying to communicate difficult concepts from some of these scientists, like my own mentor, Dr. Riccardo Carasani, which took me many years to understand and put into layman's terms what Dr. Carasani found, who's a Argentinian physicist. You can read about him at autodynamics.org. That's autodynamics.org. That's how I sort of got into this. So I really appreciate your patronage. And if you have some questions, I will definitely take them and discuss them. But I'm going to be talking today, my main theme today is to talk about 3 basic models that are out there, and to replace the current model. Now, those models include, in order of popularity, would be the ether model. By far is the most popular model. The ether model is a model specifically to give physicality to light. But after people do that, their tendency then is to try to describe all kinds of other things with the ether model. But that is definitely the most popular. There's also particle models, which my father and I have. Not too many of those out there. We have one, I think a few other people, but they're not as complete as what we have. I'm not saying it's worse or better, or ours is right and theirs are wrong. And the last one actually is a lattice model, and we have a person I'm talking to, and I won't give him his name, but he has agreed to put himself up on the Science Woke, and he's working on his model, and it's a lattice type model. What's a lattice type model? Well, it's the idea that everything you see here is like scaffolding, and the universe is built on the scaffolding. Now that sounds really like a bizarre, that can't be right. No, in fact, system-wise, because I love systems, I'm a sort of a systems computer engineer, like to come up with new systems. It works perfectly well and is a valid model for the universe. So those are the models, and I'm also going to be talking about how I, as a sort of leader, I guess, but not even that, more of an organizer, because we're more like herding cats, as they say, which is really tough because, you know, these are independent minds, very brilliant minds. And how do I treat this? What do we do? What do we say? What do we say to people who have their own dissident YouTube channels, which I know one person in particular who said there's only one truth and we all have to find that. And once we find that, then we found it. I mean, for instance, we have atomic structure, and we're all very certain about the way the atomic structure, the periodic chart is, etc., how that works. Yet, when you really look at atomic structure and what's really going on, it sort of falls apart. And yes, we think they are electrons and neutrons and protons. The mainstream science is even starting to wonder if there are things in the nucleus called a neutron. So the truth of the matter is, and the quarks and all that, if you talk to we dissidents, we can just pretty much throw those out, or at least come up with a different system. But regardless of it, what we're looking at is a periodic chart, and we can say, yeah, everybody's subscribed to that. But if someone came up with something different, because let's look at the periodic chart and understand that the electrons don't seem to go in unit or unit numbers. If you look at the periodic table, it's not just 1, 2, 3, 4. The numbers that they have, supposedly of a system that's built of electrons, neutrons, and protons, don't really come in integers, which means if these are perfect particles and these particles have a certain size, then why is it then they don't create, this system isn't coming up with integer numbers? Well, it turns out in the dissident world, people like Glenn Borkert, one of the great scientists of our time philosophically, and his infinity in neomechanics, he tells us that, in fact, this will blow your mind. I do have a video on this, I do believe, and that is no two particles are the same. No two electrons are the same. No two protons are the same. No two anything are the same. I'm not going to say quarks because I don't believe they exist. I don't believe neutrinos exist, but if you did, they would be different. And those of us who thought long and hard about these things, which not too many people think, you know, when you really think about the subatomic world, you're thinking, well, come on, they're electrons. They're going to be identical, just lots and lots and lots of electrons. They're going to be the same. Well, they're going to be similar, but they're not going to be the same. Do we see the same sun? Do we see the same planets? It's the same idea. So anyways, let me take a look at some of the questions here, but that's going to be the theme of the night, and I am going to tell you later on, after I've at some point, because I usually try to talk with what the people who are here are interested in, but I will let you know a new philosophy that I've sort of, not a new one, but a bigger emphasis on how I, David D. Hilster, the herder of cats, the herder of brilliant minds who are working outside the mainstream. Of course, they are also fiercely independent, because you can't just work outside the mainstream and take the flack you need to take, or even try to give it to mainstream and be sort of a weak person. So what do I, as a person who is actually herding these cats, plan, and what do I say? What do I say to you, and to say, why should I join your organization, David? It's not mine, but our organization. Why should we? Because you guys can't agree on anything. There's not a consensus. Well, look up D. Hilster consensus. Spell it right. It's not easy to spell. I'm a terrible speller, but look it up. And I got a couple thousand views on that. It's a really great talk I gave back in 2012 or something like that. Don't quote me on consensus in science. And I do believe that consensus in science is really bad. Consensus in anything is really bad. And so therefore, I really think that our organization is the best in the world. And you want to ask me why that is, I'll tell you. Sounds good, Dave. I'm listening. whilst doing things around the house. Hey, that's cool, because on this, in fact, I have channels of some of my favorite channels, and some of them go on for a while, and I listen to them as I'm doing other things, because we can multitask. And sometimes we drone on. It's like, Dave, I've already heard this, or this is not interesting to me, but I know something may come up that's interesting. But thanks so much. Here we go. Space is dimensionless. Local galaxy are 3 dimensions. How do you comprehend this? Space is dimensionless. Local galaxy are 3 dimensions. I'm imagining what you're trying to ask there is that space is nothing, so you can't really measure it. But I would say this comes down to a philosophical thing that we all have to understand, and that's why we call ourselves the Natural Philosophy Society. We don't call ourselves a Physics or Cosmology Society, because there's philosophy involved. And there are assumptions no matter what you do, no matter what theory you have, no matter what number system you have, no matter what language, human language system you're using. There are assumptions you have to make. And assumptions are those things which you deem true, but are impossible to prove. In reality, you can't prove anything. But you can't, these are something you're not going to try to give evidence for. I'll give you an example of that that I subscribe to, and many of us do outside the mainstream, is infinity. Infinity, what does that mean? Well, space is infinite. If you go in one direction, you're going to go forever. Unless you're my friend who I love dearly, Greg Volk, who says if you do that, you'll come back sometime from the other side. Now, I can't dispute that because I can't do that. But he makes an assumption and I make an assumption, and we both know that, you know, maybe one of us are right, maybe we're both wrong, maybe we're both, I don't know. I don't know. But regardless of that, those are assumptions. And so when you look at 3-dimensional, you say that space is dimensionless. Well, I guess if you're looking at space to be a thing, which I don't look at it as, then I guess I could say you would be right on that. But the way I look at it is space is where mass or matter exists. And those are assumptions. I'm not going to get into, I can't get into why that is and give you proof of that. All I'm saying is those are assumptions I make and many people outside the mainstream make. And so the way I look at it is different, and that is space is the 3 dimensions where mass or matter exists, and it's always in movement. We can measure that. Relativity falls apart because of Karazani. Karazani says very astutely that there is only one 3-dimensional space, and to put a frame on myself and put a frame on this ball that's moving like this, and then say those are inertial frames and that they have physics that's consistent here and physics that's consistent. Physics is consistent everywhere. There is no inertial frame. This is a matter in the space. It's moving. I can move a point in space to call it the origin, to measure, but there is no reason for me to measure between myself, the train that's moving in front of me, and then measure the light according to the train, and then that light according to me, the train according to me, and then calculate through that frame, you know, what's happening with the light. So that's what Karazani said. Basically, it's mathematically and physically redundant. So basically, I believe, and he's, especially with relativity, that there's one 3-dimensional space, and in it, it has matter, and that matter moves. That's what I know. So how do you comprehend this? That's how I comprehend that. Objects have dimensions. Space has coordinates defined by objects. Again, I would say objects have dimensions. Matter or mass has dimensions. I agree. Space has coordinates defined by objects. Yeah, I mean, I can agree with you. You can say it that way. I would say that there's space, and we have we can draw a coordinate points. We can pick a point in that space somewhere, and yes, we can use objects or to say This is inches, this is centimeters, this is parsecs, this is light years, whatever you want to call it, and do the measuring from that. But the important thing for those who are new to this channel and maybe have studied relativity is understand that I bring that up because it is outside the mainstream. We have pretty much understood that inertial frames don't exist. Frames don't exist. No frames, not space. You can, like I said, you can pick a point and you can measure from that. And Illuminati's, wait, aren't you the guy with that fabulous machine that shows magnetic fields? Okay, space is a conceptual map of what is between a network of objects that we can detect. Yeah, I mean, there's fullest boy. The only thing I'm a little hesitant on what you're saying there is space is a conceptual map. Yeah, I can, that one I can sort of understand, is what is between a network of objects that we can detect. Now you're getting into a really, it was simple in the beginning, and now you've got into a mouthful of words that really get to be to the point where I'm not sure I would tear that down. It's too complicated. Again, let's see, you're saying between network of objects, whatever that means more than one, I guess. A plurality of objects, what I would say, because a network to me is something that's got some types of relationship between it. But of course, yes, I subscribe to Borchert's infinite world, so everything affects everything. So yes, everything is connected, if you want to say that, but everything affects everything. I think that's a better way to say it, because connected has this physical meaning that has a certain thing that you say, I can measure that connectiveness, whereas I think affects, you don't have to just explain what that is. So, okay, wow, I have people leaving already. At 12, and they come and go. They're just probably coming in. People are new, want to find out what's going on. But anyways, again, I'll answer your questions. But I'm going to talk about, I want to talk about a couple of things. I have not come up with a video recently. Usually I come out a couple a week. The reason is because of this book. And I've talked about this book before, but since you guys are live on my channel, and you guys really take the time to be here, I always like to tell you things that other people, or I won't say, sort of ahead of the game. And that is, I am making a video on this book where I have 40 slides. Why? Because this book, I claim, and I think I'm absolutely right, that this is the most important book ever written in geology, ever. It's not to say that there are other people's ideas in here. It doesn't mean that this person, James Maxwell, has not stood on immense shoulders, which he has. But this isn't the book of the generation for geology. This isn't a book of the last 400 years for geology. This is the most important book ever written in geology. And the reason is because it is a thorough first attempt and a look at expansion tectonics. And that's one of the reasons he put on this. You can see politically correct because he puts in there, right there, I'll show you, James Maxwell, Beyond Plate Tectonics, Unsettling Settled Science. It's not a coincidence he didn't put expansion tectonics on that. The idea is he's trying to get to young minds or open minds or critically thinking minds or scientifically woke minds so that he doesn't turn them off right away and the people who are in plate, oh, it's the expansion guys, they're nuts, I won't read it. But it definitely is, to me, the most important book in geology. Believe me, this book just touches upon what in the next 200 years at least that will open up new fields in geology. Paleogravity. You could be a paleogravity physicist to figure out, you know, what the gravity was at certain times and how that relates to the fauna and flora and even the rocks and the earth itself. You have the comparative when you know now the earth has been expanding and they can't figure out today, which I do have a video on Australia, the east coast of Australia was seen to be connected geologically with the west coast of the Americas up in Alaska. Why? Because when you put together when you shrink down the earth the way the plate tectonics, the way the seafloor bed tells us, guess what? Believe me, that big Pacific closes down and Australia moves up, or you can say North America moves down, or when you go back in time, and those two things are touching. So you will see all that. So you're going to see lots and lots of studying and people writing dissertations about, you know, these coasts and where they matched. There's an incredible amount in this book about the coastlines at different periods, because the coastlines were the same. Water was higher, seas were shallower, the water levels rose and came up. The water is coming from in the earth, it's being manufactured there, and that process too has it. So there's so much to do to reconstruct the expansion and tectonics of the earth. And this book, to give it credit, and the credit is due, I will absolutely, you know, make this video. It's going to be a long video, but I'm going to try to give you a taste of what this book is like. And one of the other reasons is I just talked to him because he sent me an electronic form, because this is a book that he actually sent to me. And there you go. Wrote something in it. I just feel super great to be able to get books from these great scientists and have them write something in it. That's always special. But this book is not sold in the United States. I asked him about that. He sent me, because I actually spent probably a couple hours photographing the book with my my telephone, which is a great camera, of course, and then trying to make those look as decent as I could. And I said, come on, he's got to have a PDF form of the whole book, and he did. He did send that to me. I can't obviously give that to you, but I could then. Today I went in and I clipped all those 40 pictures, and the reason is I want to try to give you a thorough look at what this book is about. And when you can get it, I recommend you get it. It is it's not really technical as much as people think, even though he does talk about the technical side. It doesn't take too much because it's physicality, right? Because geology is physicality. And he also has a glossary in it. So he has a really great glossary inside the book, besides the biography and everything. So he's got, oh my gosh, how many pages here? Whoa, I didn't realize there was so many. So he's got from page, 433, and the glossary goes all the way to 433, goes to 59, so 33 to 59, that's 26 pages, 27 pages of glossary, easy to understand terminology, but it's just immense. And I'm hoping to make that video tomorrow, so stay tuned to that. Let's see here. Don Hards. I've been looking at dissident theories on the web a long time. Please look up Bill Gade. Yes, I know him. He has rope theory. It seems very plausible, and he's an excellent grasp on language manipulation as mainstream. My question to you is, Dan, is I can't remember. I do know Bill. I'm subscribed to his channel. And the rope theory, I don't know. That sounds somewhat like a lattice type of theory, so not certain what that would be, but I'll take a look at it, absolutely, because I'm looking to, and I'll get him on our website. The idea is to get as many of these as many of these theories on together on our website, because right now we are in a theory competition, really, and that's what I'm going to talk about a little later today during our broadcast here. I've been looking at this. Yeah, okay, and he says, I know you know linguistics, so I know you will relate to that example. Black holes, a region of is a black hole a region or object? Oh, good question. But I would say to you that most of us outside the mainstream would look at as a black hole as a very dense object. We don't, black holes will have an environment, a unit-environment, as Dr. Glenn Borchert would call it. Unit-environment is sort of the environment around, when you have an infinite amount of levels in the universe, which I believe we have, you just like, everything affects everything, affects everything. In our particle model, we have one level we talk about, which is the one level. We have a 2 level below it. We have an A level above that, a B level above that. We only really play maybe 70% of the time we're playing in the 1 level. If we're going down a level, we're playing in the 2 level. We barely touch the 3rd. So the whole thing is in the unit environment. What I would say is black holes are objects, and they have they have an environment around them, if you want to just use sort of colloquial terms. And we will have to understand what that is. We don't know. The speculations are still there, even with our model. Glenn Borchert has tried to address that best he can using his model, which is an ether model, infinite model. So his and our model are very similar in that, because we have the infinite. He has infinite levels of ether. We have infinite levels of particles. Ether's particles, but the way they behave, his bashed together. Ours, we're talking more the hitting kinetic energy of particles. Waves of particles traveling at the same speed, whereas he's talking about the waves bashing, the particles bashing into each other like would be sound. Regardless, the way I would look at it, black holes are objects, and there is an environment around them. They seem to be in the middle of galaxies. Galaxies seem to spit out quasars, which seem to be proto-galaxies. There's a very dense object that does not shine. That is, it does not send off either G1 particles in our model, or does not have waves through the ether, so it does not affect or send waves through the ether. So what's really happening? Black holes are completely not understood right now. We have preliminary explanations with our current theories or current new models out there. Let's see here. Go back. All right, really region. Okay. His ropes and threads would destroy Earth as they slice through, because he uses them the way his mechanism for his mechanism magnetism. Yes, I know. What's your name? My goodness, I know. I think that's the same name as his website. Who's here? I appreciate it. If you are here, I appreciate it. I really enjoy your work. I love the mechanism that you show, the magnetic fields, because my father and I have our own. We base it on the Deneuve effect by Lionel Deneuve, a physicist from Romania. So his ropes. Okay, I'll take a look at them. So you're making, I'm guessing, Illuminati is that you're saying that you have objections to his model because it would slice through and do things. Sort of like the objections to ether models, or the objections to graviton models that mainstream physics has. The objection to a planetary model of the atom, which the mainstream says can't happen. Of course, we know that's baloney, because they're judging it upon the way they do things, and what they do in the mainstream is have lots of arbitrary packages with arbitrary attributes. Charge is one of them, and charges, negative and positive, attract or repulse if they're the same. That is a system you're imposing upon the universe, but the universe has no concept of charge. But some people use that as an assumption, which is something they say is unarguable. You can't tell what it is. It's just there, and then my whole theory is based on it. And that's totally fine. You can do that. A black hole is a lack of stuff in a contiguous medium. Okay, so you're saying contiguous medium. Are you talking about a lattice? Are you talking contiguous? Doesn't exist, in my opinion. Continuums are things that if you are never, there's never a break in it. So maybe you're using that loosely. A black hole is a lack of stuff in a contiguous medium. I think we also have to be careful about where this is another thing that we in the dissident world have to be careful about. And the reason I say this is I don't just say it because it's my opinion. I've seen it by really brilliant scientists who spent their time looking at evidence. Here's some things you should do. Go out and find evidence that the electron is a particle. Go and even try that. You're going to find that even its discovery, there's one person who I think has a really great answer to this, and that's Dr. Bill Lucas. Super brilliant guy, absolutely brilliant guy. And he says the way we can say something is a particle is if we can make a beam out of it. Of course, if you have ether, then you can maybe say something like that. But a beam, of course, you can make with particles. Really a lot harder with a wave because waves will spread out in a medium. You can't just send I can't send my sound just like this. I can concentrate it, but it's still going to, regardless. So I would say that this the idea of continuums don't exist, and for something of a particle. So if you look up, try to find out the electron is a particle. When you look that up and you really try to look at it, try to look at what the electron mass is. I would say to all of you specifically, subscribe to my father's channel. He looks at some of these questions. The great thing about my father's channel is he's going to look at the things that we think and take for granted as basic, like the mass of the electron. It turns out you can't look at the mass of the electron because in our model we say that gravity is caused by the electron. So how can you measure the mass of an electron if it is involved in the measurement of mass, at least at our unicosm, our microcosm, if you want to call it. So let me show you. I'll get back to some of your comments here. But let's see. This is science. Did Hawking even judge? I guess I will talk about that. But I'm talking about my father's channel. You should subscribe. Mike, he's starting to pick up more people. He's starting to talk about some things that are very general. And I started making stingers for our CMPS channelers, our YouTubers, our vloggers, because we're going to start using them instead of my spiel in the beginning. I'm a critical thinker, dissident science, and if you're not science woke, there's a place for you, blah, 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 blah. Also, I would recommend that you see I was interviewed for almost 2 hours by Pyro123. Take a look on that. Pyro spelled Pyrrho, no, 314. I remember because it's pi. So Pyro 314, Pyrrho 314. He interviewed me for about a couple hours. That was a really great time. Really great conversation. Great questions. Really like the guy. But he had mentioned, Dave, don't tell people that if you're science woke, this is a place. If you're not science woke, lots of people who are science woke are coming my direction, and I've got to be careful about that. And he's absolutely right. So I've actually changed my headings on even my YouTube channel. Make sure I got this muted, but I'll take a look at show you that. But for my father's channel, I made a stinger. I made a stinger for Jeff Yee's channel, and I made a stinger for Nick of Time, who has his channel, and that is pretty awesome. because we're going to be, I try to keep us all sort of uniform. So I'm going to show you the stinger. Two of them have been finalized. Nick of Time, I have this to him. I render them with an online site. I've subscribed for a year, which means I can, they have these really great templates where you can put your logo in and they'll generate things for you. You can choose certain things with it. You know, the way the internet is now, you know, self-serve, something that would have cost hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. So I am going to do the Particle Guru. I do recommend you. My father is really organized. You know, he's not so, you know, like this when he talks, but he's extremely intense. The one thing that people like about my father's channel is he breaks down things to the absolute essence. And people say, eh, but then when you start to think about it, it is quite amazing what he does. So here we go. This is his stinger, which he will start using. What is a stinger anyways? Well, if you're using OBS like I'm using right now, but there's a term that's called scene transitions. One's called a stinger, and usually what those are animated sequences of anything. So whenever you see a channel and they go from scene to another scene, or they go from one story to another, a lot of times they'll have this three-dimensional transition. Those are called stingers, and OBS allows you to put the stinger in the beginning of a scene, so I do that, but I just have these in OBS as separate files. So I'm going to play this for you. This is the stinger for my father's channel, which he will start using, but he won't start using it until I teach him how to do that. I got to make a video on the YouTube channel of how to put the stingers in for these guys. I am their sort of people for that. Hey, Pyro! There he is! Thank you very much, man. I super enjoyed. The guy has got some really good questions. He has a really great observation. You should subscribe to him. He's got, especially take a look at that interview. I was very surprised on his ability to look at the bigger picture. A lot of times people want to just argue, and it was a really great conversation. But here it comes. Here is the stinger for the Particle Guru. My father, particle.guru, not .com, .guru. Here we go. Pretty darn cool, huh? Well, you can see it's all particles. Well, they have a lot of different templates, so I chose that one for him. That's a pretty cool one. I have another one to show you, and this is for Jeff Yee, who his channel, and I met him online. I can't even remember how, but I did. I sent him a message, and he started. I said, "You got to make a YouTube channel," and he certainly did. I was really happy that he has done that. I love his theory. I have disagreements with the way the universe works with it, but I still love his theory. And I will tell you, like I've told everybody before, and I told Pyro, he may be right. His model may be the model everyone will be using for the next couple hundred years, whenever something like that could happen. Our model could be right. Our model could be wrong. His model could be wrong. But we don't know if we're not out there and we're trying and pushing it to the limit. It is a much, much, much better, magnitudes better than the mainstream model. So I try to make one with waves because the energy wave. I did make the, you know, that's one of the things Pyro says. Hey, I appreciate it. Pyro is complimenting my artwork. Go to dhilster.com. I have been doing art all my life. I can sit down and draw your portrait with a pencil, and it looks pretty much like, you know, a photographic kind of thing. I'm not here to brag. It's just something I was born with. I love art, so when I make these, so just to let you know, yeah, it's all my artwork, all the logos I came up with myself, including for the particle model. These logos, everything you see right there, that logo there. But this is the energy wave stinger I made for Jeff Yee. He loved it. I actually rendered it for him because you can just sort of do low-level rendering. So I will do that, and I'll get to your questions and comments just right after this, after I show you these stingers just for fun here. Here we go. Pretty darn cool, the wave kind of stuff. I was really blown away. I said, this is like perfect for him. And of course, you know, he does have his energy wave logo which I came up with, which I thought was pretty cool. I'll show you some of those things. But let me get back to my channel. And this is, since Pyro's around, I listen to you, Pyro, and I do want to say that I want to show you this. I'm very proud of it. The reason is I'm one of those people, if someone comes up and shows me a better truth or better way to do something, and I think about it, I said, yeah, that's better, I will do it. And he was commenting that I was saying, are you science woke? Then this is a place for you. And it's like, wait a minute, Dave. A lot of people are coming here are going to be turned off because they are science woke. They don't need you to tell them they're science woke. Pyro's science woke. Probably most of you here are science woke. Some of you are becoming science woke, or you are woke in different ways. So I'm very proud to show you this, Pyro, because it came directly. I changed my top banner for my Facebook and YouTube and all this. So let me go there and show you this. There it is. And at the very top right there, you can see up there, it says for the science woke. Now, I would imagine now, what I like about that is that if you're a science woke person, you're going to say, cool, I found my channel. Or if you are a person who wants to become science woke, you're sort of like, oh, I want to get in that club. I can get in there. I can sneak my way in there and see if maybe I'm science woke, or maybe I can become science woke. So that's really, really thanks to Pyro's comments, and I really greatly appreciate it, and I do listen to it. Let's see here. I don't like browsing around until I can show people. Let's see, energy, search for the energy wave, and that's the channel for, there it is, and I'll show that to you here. This is the energy wave theory. You can see the EW there, energy wave. I did come up with that. It's sort of cool. The W is a wave, the E is energy, sort of that blocky energy E looking kind of thing. And there's Jeff, who's got this great silhouette of a picture, so I put all that together for him. Yeah, and he's like the 234. He just he started a little after me, and so he's moving along. He really presents his channel and his you can see what is dark energy, what is dark matter, what is relativity. He's trying to show that, of course, according to not only what it is, he's got a great history lesson in there, and of course then he talks about it with his own model. That's what's great about these new models, what's great about what a lot of people like about this channel, also about other people's channels, that we don't just criticize, we come up with different ideas and different models to actually explain that. And that's pretty cool. So that's his. Now I'm going to show you the last one before I get to the questions and go back here and answer your questions. And that is another really brilliant guy. He has got his degree in physics from Harvard, so he's no slouch. He is my father's generation, but he's very sprite, very lucid. He has his videos absolutely worth looking at, and that of course is Nick of Time with Nick Percival. And I do say, let's see, Nick Percival is good channels. I think I have that on my channels. Oh, I don't have any featured channels on this. Doesn't channel features any other channels. That's not good. Dissident channel should have that. I do have it on my own. Oh wow, that's bizarre. So if I put youtube.nick Percival, oh no, not Nick of Time, time.guru. I think I should get there. Yes, I do. That will get me right there. But I want to show you the stinger I made for him. Now you will notice I did make a really neat logo for him. It's pretty simple, but gets the point across. Nick of Time, you'll get the logo picture. But I made this just for him today, again with render. You'll see that on the side. You'll see a watermark, what it's called. It's not fully rendered. I only get 5 a month with my subscription. So if you are a YouTuber and you want one, I'm certainly not going to use them all. I will be happy to work with you, get yourself, even maybe work with you to get a logo, get that kind of stuff. I do that because hey, help everybody. That's the whole thing. a person that believes, you know, if I make 10 million a year, that's the same as if I made 10 billion. I would be happy with 10 million. The rest, I don't think people should have that much money, because, you know, you only need so much to be happy. And once you do, you want to make sure everybody else is. So I will help you out. But here's the nick of time. He has not approved this yet, but I'm pretty good at choosing stuff, and I think this one turned out really good for him. So I hope you enjoy the stinger for Nick of Time, and please subscribe to his channel. He's got 30-some videos. One of them he's got over 2,500. So that's on the Heffel Keating experiment. Here we go. Nick of Time stinger by Render Forest, logo by David Hilster, and sort of coordinated, directed by me, myself, and I. Here we go. Nick of Time. Get it? Get it? Time. It's got a nick in it. For those who are not native English speakers, sometimes these are little subtle things. Nick in English means a something that come and hit something, and it nicks it. A nick can be a piece that's fallen off of it. You know, you nick some piece of. There's a nick in my plate, and that's a piece of it has come off because it hit something, or something hit it. A little chip, a nick of on your. So the time is there, the clock, and has a nick in it. And his name's Nick of Time, nickoftime.guru. Please do subscribe. It's definitely worth it. It's a little bit more, you know, it's about time and special relativity. If you really like relativity and the twins paradox, but he does talk about ether theory concepts and those kinds of things as well. Just a brilliant mind, definitely worth you listening to. You don't have to be a PhD in physics to understand it. Again, all these people, it's worth it. Just listen to it, even if it's sort of in the background. Let it sink in. Let them take a look. So I'm going to come back here and see how far I get. His ropes would kind of destroy the Earth. I've got that. Black holes, the lack of stuff contiguous. We talked about that. Okay, I see that Hawking even second guessed his black hole theory. Lisa, absolutely. I don't remember if it was in 2013, 14, 15, around that. Don't quote me on any of that. But he came back and he says, my theory of black holes is wrong. And at that point, a lot of us outside the mainstream says, will he take it a step further? And he didn't. But the good thing is I think the one thing I do have to say about him is that he was brave enough to say the 30 years that I was working on the way black holes work, in fact, is not correct. And he called them more gray holes, and you can read about that. But then he's got another side where he talks, I think he's talking about multiverses, if somebody may want to correct me. I did, when he died, I did some videos. So look, go to YouTube, type in Dissident Science, Hawking, and you will see I've done numbers on him. And I will say, I don't think I have this book. Wouldn't buy it. My brother read it. I borrowed it from him, but this is from that time. Been trying to put my books, all my Dissident books, up on that channel, that shelf right there, you see. But here's one that I bought in the year 2005 when I started my movie, which is called Einstein: The Miracle Year, and that's his miraculous year. And I bought this at a museum. It's in the movie where we go see it. I couldn't film inside the museum, but my brother read A Brief History of Time or something like that, the book by Hawking on time, and I don't have it. I don't think I even want to take the time to read it and make a statement about it, because to me it's just a waste of time. I'd rather take the same time in my life at this point. I'm almost 60. I'll be 60 this year. I look young because of my diet, folks. Anyways, that's a different Science Progressive. Oh, that's a different channel I'm going to be launching here soon. But anyways, what Hawking, you know, his Brief Moment in Time is probably my brother said is one of the worst books he's ever read. It's just a really terrible book. It's terribly written, really hard to understand. My throat's going funny on me. But anyways, so on one side, Stephen Hawking was bucking the trend and saying, what I worked on for 30 years is wrong. He made adjustments to it and says, okay, this is what I think is really happening. So I really take my hat off to him. Stephen Hawking never won the Nobel Prize. For those people who are not into science and really don't know what these guys are talking about too much, just to sort of tell you, is his idea, the last ideas. Again, if you look up Dissident Science and Hawking, you will get a few of my talks, I believe, especially the one he died. And he's talking about the last paper he wrote. People in the mainstream were not so much into multiverses, although they were before the big collider they had. And what's her name? She is the one that she was the one that wrote the book Lost in Math. Simone Hoffenfelder, Lost in Math. Take a look at that. Lost in Math, or the particle physicist who left physics, left the particle physics herself. Lost in Math. There it is. Yeah, and she is written by Sabine Hossenfelder. And she talks about how the Hadron Collider, they were having all these fancy things, like even what Hawking was talking about. But when the Hadron Collider, they were expected to have all kinds of proof for all these crazy ideas that they had. And it turns out that none of them were right. They were all, basically in her mind, proven wrong. I have read her book. I haven't done I've been trying to contact her. If you know Sabine, if you've actually communicated with her, tell her I would like to interview her. She is the she must be a sibling of Dr. Alexander Unser. I sent her a long email. I gave her links, and she is either turned off by what was going on or maybe intrigued. I don't know. She did talk about that, and so Stephen Hawking was in that camp. So because he pitched one of his tents at the base camp of these exotic, crazy kind of ideas, which we outside the mainstream is based on quicksand already. It's one thing to have a crazy model of the universe, but it's another thing to be based on solid ground. All of ours, ether, particle, and lattice theories are based on really solid ground, where the mainstream science is not. So when you talk about these other theories that are out there that these people had, including Hawking, he was lumped together with those. Once the Hadron Collider came on board, he basically was lumped with those people, and they said, these aren't true, we can throw them out, you guys are all really crazy, as a lot of people thought. And so that's where Hawking was. He never won the Nobel Prize. He was more of a story about his human condition than he was of his brilliance, because in the list of people we consider to be brilliant scientists, well, outside the mainstream, forget it. Almost every brilliant scientist who goes around giving lectures for lots of money in mainstream particle physics or in cosmology, or people who are the politicians of as bad as the politicians we have, well, the politicians are the science evangelists we have out there. Those people, if you look at them, they're actually quite, if you look at them as scientists and great thinkers and science woke and also critical thinkers, they score very low on the totem pole. And believe it or not, people who have won Nobel Prizes, if you put them up against, as Dr. Alexander Unser says, if you just take 100 physicists, they're actually in the bottom 10%. Believe it or not. That's pretty shocking, Lisa Hauserman. Lisa, that's one of the things I want to really get together and talk to Alexander Unser about that, because he and I are the same belief, but he actually has more proof of it, that the people who actually go in and they get these prizes and they go out and they're the ones making all the noise and saying all these crazy things, they turn out to be people who are not that how do you say, The people who are more lucid and really want to do things and want to do things in truth and want to really change the world are the ones who leave it because they know it's on a house of cards. So anyways, that answers that question. Lisa, about the second guess his black hole theory. I hope that gave you some idea there. Let's say, Pyro interview was great. Oh, great, Adam Lohr. Hey, Adam, great. I won't say, but thank you for agreeing to work with us and get, we're going to help you in every way. Adam Lohr has his own model. I'm very intrigued by it. And I'm going to tell you, stick around, do not go away, because I'm going to say it near the end. We're coming up to the first hour, but into the second hour, I am going to tell you about how all of us, including my subscribers, all of you, and I will make a video of this, how do we deal with all these different models? Is this right? Is this the way it is? Or are we going to be, like most people think, saved by one person? I now have a thesis about that. I'm going to write that as an article in Science Woke. So go to sciencewoke.org, subscribe to the newsletter, put your email in there so that when we launch, you will be notified. Of course, if you're a subscriber, you will know that. I plan, that's going to be happening guaranteed before the end of June. That will launch. But I have lots of people looking at it. I have lots of people contributing to it. It is absolutely amazing. I'm just really happy with everybody. So Adam, it's great to see you. Thanks for again, also Pyro, great interview. I like how your dad's engineering attitude. I would say to everyone that the engineering attitude is what makes the best scientists. They're the ones who are not married to anything they do. My father and I are just not married to anything we do. No matter what we have, I will tell you right now, this is again, you guys who come to my live session, I will tell you secrets that I will never say on my regular recorded channels. And one of those is that right now, my father is struggling. He came to my house literally a couple days ago or a day ago, yesterday I think it was, and he is agonizing over the fact that our particle model is he hacking the universe with it. We are having a hard time with our particle model to describe how neutrons or nucleuses are accelerated. We have mechanisms, but how it is exactly happening, we're not, he is not happy with the way our model we can apply our model. Our model, that's the reason we call hacking, is our model allows you to do solutions 5, 6, 7 different ways with the same model. And so right now he's totally agonizing over that. I told him, he said, we're going to solve this. Every time we come up with something we can't solve, well, we end up solving it. I know he had one with electrostatic. He said he couldn't solve. And I said, wait a minute, Dad, that's easy. And I said, why don't you just do it this way, blah, blah, blah. And he turned to me, he's mad as hell. And he goes, wow, why didn't I think of that? So he and I are the only 2 hackers. Well, there's 3, another guy who knows our model, who actually helped out a little bit. And anyways, that's really interesting. But the whole idea of this engineering attitude is that, hey, we're going to put together a model. If it works great, it's great. If we can even use it technically, if someone can use our model to do faster than light speed communication, great. Does that prove it our model's right? No. What it does prove is the model's good, it's useful. And to me, that's one of the moral obligations of all scientists, is we should make things that are morally good and useful for us. Why do it? I mean, just pure. I always believe that if you have a good model, it's a matter, like Karzani said to me, it's just a technical matter of then solving a problem with it. So here we go. I like the engineering attitude. Okay, electron mass and is effective mass, that is a function of voltage applied. It is actually not mass, it's inertial mass. Mass is actually quantity volume of stuff. Illuminati, take a look at my father's channel, Particle Guru. He talks about that. And the answer to that question, I say this a lot, is depends on the model of the universe you have. Now, one of the things that I say that that I like about infinity, which makes other models have problems, is that if you don't have an infinity, what you have to do is you have to imbue these magical things like charge, and then you have to just say that's the way it is. And so when you have that, then you apply that, and then you say, well, then mass is this and charge is that, and you have electric field, but no one tells me, or the person who is saying that and is talking about the mass and how it's measured without the model, how do you measure it? How do you say anything? So the only thing I can say to you is you have to subscribe to a model, whether it's yours or not, and then using that model, convince me and anybody else that what you're saying is true. So you can say about the effective mass that is a function of voltage applied, but my father, who is an electrical engineer for 40 years, a really great one, he is a person that with our particle model, we see a very different thing. Voltage, current, the Ohm's law, all those things are great rules of thumb. They work very well. We can make calculations for them. And when we went to integrated circuits, we came up with new equations. People come up with those. They write dissertations on them. They put them in computers. They make computer programs that they can make chips, et cetera, et cetera. The question then becomes, is that really what's happening physically? And the answer in electrical engineering is almost always no, not at all. So I would say, again, particle.guru or youtube.particle.guru. My father breaks this down in he looks at mainstream stuff, and then he starts to talk about it and makes you understand the questions we really need to answer and understand. So when we make these statements that are full of, okay, voltage applied, that's just a huge implication in a model. It's it's simple to say those words, but you've got to translate that into a physicality. I'm not arguing that you're wrong, Illuminati. I'm not arguing that. What I'm saying is we can use words, we can use these vocabulary, we can say what we mean, we can think in our heads what they mean, but when I say to you, what is voltage really? What is current really? What is, how does it really work in electrical circuits? What's a magnetic field really? And all I can say is, at least for my father and I, we have an answer to every one of those questions, so that when we say to you there's a magnetic field and they're particles and they're flowing in this direction, we can even tell you why they curve around it, because there's a level down that makes the smaller particles that make those curve. And yes, there's a level that we have an answer at least. Now, are we right? I don't know. But I'm saying, to say this is what mass is and this is how it is, I would read into your statements that mass is actually a quantity of stuff. Yeah, again, the way I look at it is you have space and there's matter in it, and or mass, and it's always moving. I won't go to say much more than that. That's all we need in our model, actually. So, but that's okay. I got what you're saying, but I would say, nice, Dave. Okay, his demeanor. Absolutely, Dave's art is top notch. Oh, well, thank you very much, Pyro. I really appreciate it. Yeah, people. When I tell people I'm an artist, they go, "Oh yeah, I do art too," and then they show me their art, and I'm thinking to myself, "You're not an artist." And I'm not here to criticize. It's you either got it or you don't. You can learn it. There are people like Charles Schultz, who did the Peanuts. He was terrible at drawing, but he learned to draw. He learned the composition. He got everything, and he became very good at his craft. He was a very good craftsman. But art's a different thing. A person to sit down and be able to see the world and it just comes out. It comes out. I'm not sure if you're born with that. You can probably learn quite a bit of it. But yeah, I do appreciate it. People do that's what happened when I got my job in the supercomputing research department at LexisNexis, where I work. People there are pretty brainy, high IQs and all that stuff. And so I went into the office for the first time, into the area, and sat down, and people go, "Oh, I love your art." And I didn't even know who they were. They went to my website, checked it out, and they go, "Boy, yeah, you're really an artist." I tell people that, but anyways, I'm not here. It's not to brag. It's just one of the things I do, but I do it for myself. I'm not interested in painting a 4x8 foot purple painting to make sure so and so likes it. I paint for myself, and I do see myself at a time where I don't need to worry about working anymore. I'm not sure that's going to happen, but then I would be able to do some of my art. Okay, Lisa Hausman. I'm removing the sand from my eyes as I awaken. I would say this is for people who are not science woke. Yeah. Yeah, I would say so too. But for those people who are, a lot of times when you are science woke, you may not know as much as I do. And it's not because I'm smart. I've just been around longer. I mean, I'm 60 years old, and I was in this since I was in my early 30s. So almost half my life, almost 30 years, I've been involved with being close to these people. So I've collected a lot of information. Greg Volk is another person who has a wealth of information about dissident scientists. So it's even if you are science woke, you're going to hear things that you didn't think of. I'll give you a good example. At least 10 years ago, from the last 10 years, many of the people in our organization, I was starting to really push the expansion tectonics, although there were other people. I seemed to be louder and more boisterous about it. And then the next thing I knew, I saw people who never really paid attention to it or knew much about it. So the whole idea is that even though if you are science woke, you're going to find things here that you didn't know, because I do have lots of people. Every time anybody gets a book, they know it. I get their book. So, you know, I get a book in Italian. I talked about this. I'm not sure I even did one on it. Angelo Gentili. I mean, I got this entire book last year. I mean, it's amazing. It's huge. Over 500 pages. And it's all in Italian, almost. There are parts of it in English. But people send me their books. And, you know, and oh, look at this. See, this is why. Look, Special Theory of Relativity, Herbert Dingle. This is written in what, the 1940s or 50s? This book is an original book. What's the year? Oh, no, first published 1940. This was republished in 1961. Nigel, a contemporary of Einstein's who fought him to his death. Congratulations. Let's see. It's from them, but they would want to hear. They're looking for woke science. Yep. If I don't know makeup, I'm looking for a makeup channel, not a channel for people that can't do it. If I don't know makeup. Oh yeah, absolutely. Today and age, this idea, I mean, a lot of people used to train, right? There were sort of two types of people. You go to university, you get sort of schooled in the knowledge in an area in a much more in-depth knowledge, instead of 2 years, 4 years. And maybe it's a little bit more heady. You had to do more books and more symbolic manipulations with math and concepts. And you get into those fields and you can get a job in that. Or you could go into technical work and go train on cars for a while. Now you can go to a YouTube channel on YouTube and learn almost anything you want. I have to fix something. I blew out a soundboard on our sound system for our samba stuff. You can see there, caipirinha, the refreshing Brazilian drink. Yeah. Well, I blew it out, and we could go onto the internet. I found the diagram for the circuit board. My father, who's an electrical engineer, picked out all the stuff, and so the money we don't have to buy a new sound system, I'm sitting there soldering stuff, and I'm doing what my father did when he first was an electrical engineer, although he had a lot more knowledge, obviously, of the components. But today and age, you can learn a lot about almost anything. And so that's what's great. That's why I think we have so many woke people, is because now you can't pull the wool over their eyes and say, well, as you get close to the speed of light, mass increases. And you say, why, professor? And they say, that's just the way it is. Well, you can go off and see, oh, well, there must be a lot of evidence for special relativity. You go on the internet and try to find it. There's one old page that has it, and it's pretty weak. So that's another test. If you are new to be science woke and you think, oh, relativity, it's so right. I mean, we hear about it all the time. Special relativity, time slows down, all that. Go take a look and search for scientific proof or experiments that back up special relativity. In fact, GPS actually shows it's against special relativity because they use C plus V and C minus V between satellites, and you can't add to the speed of light. You're not supposed to, but they do it. So maybe it's happening. Okay, here's a more accurate saying. Where's the nickname? I think that more accurate, the mass of an object is a fractal volume, which is less than the volume of a platonic solid that encloses internal motions of the objects. You know, I sort of, you know, I do know your channel and sort of the some of the what you're using, but again, you have to have real specific definitions of these things, because it's starting to get almost metaphysical here. A volume of a platonic solid that encloses, you know, I guess I'd have to understand exactly what that is, but here's what I would say again. Don't try to define what mass is, because the way, here's the reason. If we do truly believe that simpler models win, well, our model's maybe the simplest one out there, because all we have is mass and movement. But of course, that's not only us. That's not true. Glenn Borkert has the same kind of model. We don't have to explain what mass is. What we have to say is mass is made up of parts, and it always is made up of parts. Because when you go looking for them, if you go looking for, like my James Maxwell seafloor bed, let's get a picture you can see there. There we go. United States and South America. Anyways, this is a solid, right? Well, it's not, because I can send stuff through it. And if you look at this, the physicists will say it's mostly space. And so you can never find the mass. And I think that's one of the lessons is we don't need to necessarily worry about that. Let's worry about the masses in movements and how those movements manifest themselves in the world that we know. How does mass and movement create magnetic fields? Because if there's a field there and it has a force, it's got to be mass and movement. That's what we say. But so when we get into the real definitions of those things, we're really obsessed with the definition of time, for instance. And I agree with Borkert, it's movement. Time means nothing without movement. Yeah, and there's distance and too, but it's not, you know, it's nothing sacred, or it's something that we use that helps us in making equations that can predict where another mass will be at another time. And what does that allow us to do? Build everything we can build, from cars to spaceships to buildings to everything. So computers. So that's the way I sort of look at that. But you know, you'd have to really define those Illuminati, what those things are. And again, I think what we need to do is stop. My own opinion, okay? You can do what you want, but my opinion is, from hanging out with all these brilliant minds for a couple decades, we don't spend a whole lot of time. The people who come in with a lot of verbiage, people are like, tell me what it's doing. What do you have? I know Pyro was talking about why is physicality so important. Well, to me, if science is interesting in a model of the universe is only interesting if it's morally serves us. And what is morally serving means that we can use those models to do things to make our world better, that we can manipulate our world. So I can make these glasses for the bad design of my eyes, which will not focus correctly. That makes my quality of life better. If I can send a signal with G2 particles that go way faster than the speed of light, and I can find a way using our model to do that and communicate to Mars, so that people on Mars someday then will be able to, in real time, communicate back to us here. That's really something. And the only way we can get to that is if we have a model. And the only way we can get there is if our models are really as close as to what we think the universe is, because it's certainly not going to help us. We can only get so far with certain things. Electronics is a good example. Our model of physics models of electronic components is horrific. It doesn't really exist at all. So, Peter North here. Oh, great stream, guys. Cool. Dissident Science recommended channel Fractal Woman. Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that fractals. She was talking, Lori Gardy is her name. She's a member of the CMPS, writing papers now with Jeff Yee, which is really cool, on the electrical side of the universe, like electric universe a little bit. And when I met Lori Gardy and convinced her to go to the conference in Vancouver, and I really got to meet her, and we were driving someplace, I think, to eat or something like that. And of course, we're sitting in the car with all these people, and it's just, these conversations are like this all the time. It's just like heaven for a few days until your mind explodes. But when she was talking about how the galaxies look like fractals, it all of a sudden occurred to me what we're seeing is in a galaxy is like sort of the certain focus, a certain wavelength or certain bandwidth, I think it's better to call it, bandwidth of a fractal, because fractals are just a repeating operation, right? It's just a repeating operation, and down below it's repeating. Fractals are infinite up and down. I believe in infinity up and down, like Borchardt says, and I think there is something to be said that the reason fractals and galaxies look the same is because galaxies are made from extremely small things that are doing repeated stuff. So the reactions, the way stars blow up, or the chemical reactions going on, they're repeated over and over. And when we have a chemical reaction, yes, all particles are different, but in the end, the chemical reactions that are going on are repeatable. And those things, if you get lots of them together, they're going to all fire off in a way, and that firing off of a pattern is going to be fractal in nature. And that's, I think, the reason that happens. And that way, that only could have happened when me, talking to Fractal Woman. So yeah, I would absolutely go to Lori Gardy, Fractal Woman, really great channel. Illuminati, Dissident Science. The idea in his electron mass video shows I am right. It varies with voltage on the lady's blackboard. Okay, but my father has a. I can't remember in our model what voltage really is. We know what current is. Current is just the flow of G1 particles. Current's no different from light, is no different from gravity, is no different from electricity. Light and gravity just differ in their randomness versus non-randomness, and electricity is just the flow of particles together, whereas gravity is in random order, random directions. But I couldn't say that. You may be completely right about that, but it all depends on your understanding of our model of what voltage is. My father probably did say that. I'm not. I've been just so busy with a million things, I don't remember exactly. But ask him that question, or if you have and he says, then I would agree with you then, because he and I are using the same model. So again, it all depends on what voltage. You talk about voltage, but you have in your mind what that is, and we would translate our model and say, okay, what people call voltage is really this. So could very well be. Inertial mass is the measurement of resistance of motion. Mass is a kind of volume. At low speeds, they are proportional to each other. Inertial mass. Again, all of this, when you talk about mass and inertial mass and all this stuff, you have to be talking about what are we talking about it for. Inertial mass means there's a movement of mass compared to yourself. If I'm moving next to something and we're both moving through space, inertial masses, I guess, would be relative in some sense. I mean, it's not going to hit me. Or if it's going really slow, it's going to hit me really slow. It's not going to smash through me. Whereas if we're moving 1,000,000 miles an hour compared to something else and we hit, then it explodes. So the whole thing is about all these things. When you, one of the things I have as one of my videos is the explanation that Einstein's thought experiments are wrong. And the reason they're wrong is because he makes it isolated. And I will say to you, look up thought experiment, Dissident Science. Watch my video. This is a conclusion I finally came up to, because my brother always said he hated thought experiments, and there's a real problem with it, and that's the real problem with the genesis of special general relativity, where you have an elevator and you have a light beam and it's coming down. You don't know if you're falling, you're gravitational. And he says because of that, what he has done is created something that will tell you nothing. If you take away everything and all you have is an elevator and you're falling and you have nothing else in reference to it, it doesn't matter. The universe doesn't work that way. It's infinitely up and infinitely down. Everything affects everything. So for him to isolate and only do these things, throwing out the entire universe around it, which has to exist, because to make these things exist, for gravity to exist, you have to have a gravitational field, whether that's G1 particles, whether you have an entrained ether, whatever it is, all those kinds of things, you have to have a model. And the problem is when we talk about all these things, inertia, all these things, you've got to go back to a real physical model. I mean, if you get yourself tied up and tongue-tied in the language of it, and again, me being a linguist, my goodness, I got a master's in linguistics for the idea of trying to understand the meaning of what people say. Look, the problem is words become sort of magical. We start using them, we get some idea in our mind with it. We actually have little places, there's actually 1 or 2 neurons in your brain that fire when you hear the word grandma. We know that. We actually have that mapped out in the brain these days. We have, so when we call something, we label it. What we end up doing as human beings is often not only personifying it, which is a bad thing, but we objectify it. We make it an object, and that's why you have a space-time, which is an absurd thing that they talk about in relativity, and they objectify that. And who talks about that extremely well is Dr. Glenn Bork, not myself. The actual resistance to motion is the matrix of this impulse to the object. Okay, yep. So resistance to motion, yep. Again, if you are they have to talk about a model. The model I use, my father used, you have particles, gravitational particles, which basically, no, you have random particles that are pretty much the same size going in all directions. That's gravity, whatever level you're at. And you can have stars will create a gravity for objects above and larger for them, all those kinds of things. But that's what you would have, and those things have impulses, meaning they hit. So those little particles will hit the bigger particle. And when they hit, they can cause kinetic energy that causes the thing to move or stay in the same point. Or if it's moving along, it's hitting things, there's a resistance, but there's things on hitting on the other side. So no matter what you send into space, it's eventually going to slow down. So again, it all depends on your model. I know what you're talking about, the motions of matrix, impulse applied to the object. Yep, you can mathematically, my father does it in summations. You have, yep, again, sure. Yes, it is like a twin paradox. Unsicker and electric unifans are here. Okay, Krista Birch, like your channel because you push people to debunk or accept the standard model, hook, line, and sinker. Hey, really good. Electric Universe fan? Oh, that's great. Electric Universe people are wonderful critical thinkers. Actually, they're quite a diverse band. We're at 10:22. At 10:30, I will be talking about the thing I promised to talk about, and that is how do I, David D. Hilster, see the herder of cats, see what we should do with all these models, including the Electric Universe. What is the solution? What does it mean? Because there's a lot of people that disagree that the reason that's happening because we're lost. And I will tell you something that I'll make a video of. So that's one of the perks of staying around, being on my channel. I really appreciate it. So Unsker, absolutely, the guy's great. Read Sabine Hoffenfelder. She read Lost in Math, Krista Birch. That's also good. The Twin Cities, what's moving? Oops, mental paradox. Okay, since we're getting close to the 10:30 mark, let me, and I don't see any more questions. I've gone through them, and I see people are still sticking on. I know people can have to come and go, because depending on where you are, I have some people actually in Romania listening to me, and they will come once in a while. It's like 1 or 2 in the morning, but they'll sometimes stay up. But they can see it, and I was wondering why I have so many reviews. A lot of times these things, well, if you come, it's pretty interesting, but if you don't come, I do notice myself that if there's a long, I have some of my favorite YouTubers, and I actually enjoy their longer ones. I think it's because you get how do you say, a person talking in that way that you don't hear all the time. You're not going to, once you get away from this YouTube recording or from this live session, you're going to not be in a world where people are talking like this, who are talking, who are critical thinkers in physics and cosmology. And that's one of the reasons you should come to our conference. 2019.naturalphilosophy.org. If you're on the West Coast, it's cheap because we're at a university. You can stay in a dorm for like $50 a night. It's only for 4 days or whatever. So it's not expensive to be there, and you're going to be in heaven because you're going to have people there talking about the most interesting things. And so when people do leave or see this, so I can understand that when people, I get lots of views on this. You know, a week later I have 200 or 300 views sometimes of these long sessions, and people watch them for a while. And so it's good to turn on. It gets you into, it's sort of like warming up. You get your head into it. It gets you thinking, that kind of thing. So I can start to see sort of why that happens. So, okay, to my main theme tonight, and that is different types of theories. People know, and this was what Pyro said, and other people say, oh, I like you, Dave, because you accept all these different theories. But let's face it, inside our mind, this is why you come to this channel, because I'm telling you things like this, because it takes me decades to come up with these ideas. But basically, what happens is you have all these different models, and they're really interesting. But you're saying inside your head, you know, the universe only sort of probably is only working in one way. These models can't all be right. And if there's going to be one model, I can sort of understand that maybe one model would take off. Well, if they're there, why hasn't one taken off? Why is it that when people are together, that one doesn't really just stand out from the others? And though that people start gravitating to that, well, if there's a lot of ether and 90% of the people are etherists, then it should be ether. And all you other people, like we particle people and the lattice people, throw that away. Here's the answer. Here's David D. Hilster's opinion. I don't even know if you call it an expert opinion. Maybe because of very few people know as many people as I do, and outside the mainstream, and as many different models, I would say Greg Volk and a couple other people knew. Then maybe you could call it an expert opinion. But regardless, it doesn't matter. My opinion of many, many decades of being around these people and being around these models, and finally coming to this conclusion. There's a paper that I've written, a blog that I've written, blog article that I've written on Science Woke that you will finally see. And I talk about, and I've already said this, that we're in science revolution. Now, what people say, including Alexander Unsker and other people have said, and you read it almost in every article that you read about new theories going to come along, every science fiction movie you have, there was Newton, then there was Einstein, then there's Gazibazab, and Gazibazab in the Star Trek or Star Wars movie is the next genius who came up with the next big thing. I have a theory about that now. And the reason we've spent 400 years, because we have over 400 years, we're coming up to 500 years on trying to come up with an agreeable model for light and gravity. We still haven't had it. It started with Newton, believe it or not. Newton, before he died, they were talking about ultramundane corpuscles. They were talking about luminiferous ether. Luminous ether, so meaning ether for light, because there was the ether, the gas, and all that. Well, I believe if you take a look at where we are today, the human race, take a look at the computer that you're, or the phone you're on, the computer you're on, this is a fact. There's no human being today that knows every aspect of almost anything technological anymore. No one at Apple knows what an iPhone, the entire iPhone is. You couldn't find one person who could build that completely on their own. Doesn't exist anymore. Even the manager, he has to rely on somebody else to make it. The operating systems that for Windows, no person knows. Bill Gates doesn't know it all. The rockets that we send up into space at Elon Musk and all these other billionaires who shouldn't exist. Sorry, political statement there. Those people. None of those things one person can understand. So it's my contention today, after Newton, is that we are now in a period of time where no one person is going to come up with the answer. The only thing I could see is something like an ether model, or like my father and I's particle model, where you can hack the universe. So you can hack the universe, what I call hacking the universe, with an ether model. Because you have ether that can describe light, but now you have to describe gravity. Now can you describe particles? Then you have an energy wave theory like Jeff Yee. So what I'm saying is, I don't think necessarily the next big step is going to happen with one person alone. Yes, we stand on the shoulders of other people, for sure. But can we actually, are we to the point where the data is so much that when we're doing so many particle collisions in a particle collider that we literally have billions, if not trillions of pieces of data, and now we have to make sense of it? And like myself at our supercomputing company where we have open source supercomputers, can we take that data and then actually have machine learning, which is not artificial intelligence, it's just statistics that run across a huge amount of data that could end up finding out the way the universe works better than we humans can. So are we getting to the point in those last 400 or 500 years where we're having to realize that we're not going to be able to do this alone? That we're not going to have one person sitting as a surfer dude sitting and saying, oh, you know, we've got, I've been thinking about it, it was 256 dimensions and all this, like that surfer dude, and they think, you know, that story comes up and down. Look it up, surfer dude and, you know, physics theory. Believe it or not, it's there. My contention now is that it's probably not going to be a one-person deal anymore. It's going to be sort of like building a rocket. Our models and our models for it are going to be like computer programs. We're going to have maybe groups of people coming up with really good models because we're going to find more and more about things. These models are going to tell us things. We're going to then know more. We'll throw out all particle physics, start over, get back to our engineering roots, find out, and then we'll be able to go forward again. And then we'll find out stuff. But we are probably in a time where we're no longer able to, just like our systems are so complex now, and our models of the universe, that we're getting to the model of the universe, it's a very vastly diverse, not necessarily complex, but diverse place, that we can actually support several models, like we can support several operating systems, like we can support several whatevers. And we already have those. For those of you who don't believe that's true, tell an electrical engineer and a mechanical engineer to stop using the equations that they use for circuits, which are very different from the physics that's going on, which are very different from the way people who deal with gases and pressures deal with. People who are mechanical engineers that are dealing with chemistry and gases and how they are affected with pressure and temperature and all that. People building rockets. Everybody has their sets of equations, and sometimes they even come up with their own sets. And then when they come up with it in the university and the other people doing it, they use them also. So I am saying that this idea that Unziker and other people say, and then everybody who writes an article, someday Zimberzab will come along and he will save us all and he'll take us and give us to the next level, because so far it's been one person. But if you've looked at where they've been and what they've had to discover, it hasn't been that complex. Now we're getting to the point where my father and I have a really viable model that we keep hacking at it. We can change it, we can move it, we can manipulate it to do what the universe is doing, and then we can question, well, it's based on certain principles, and can we do that? We could have our particle model and have someone else come along and do a better job with it. We could have somebody who can come up to in our conference who's an etherist, says something, it triggers something in my mind, and I can give them a solution in their ether model that will make it better. And maybe that'll be a jump where it'll solve an ether problem that hasn't been solved before. Or someone can come up with our model and says, Dave, that's easy. And someone has already done that with our model. So the answer to the question, the answer to the story of all of these different models is go at them, support each other. Do you think, for instance, when you have people who are working at Apple, they have to work with people who work from Microsoft, so because they run Word and the Microsoft Office, they now run on my phone right here, and it's an Apple phone. So you have people who are literally working together in competing operating systems, competing technology, and competing wages. Because if Microsoft starts getting really bad, the people from there are going to have to work at Apple, or vice versa. What does this mean? It means that we need, I myself want to lead this movement, that we need to have as many models as possible, as many diverse models as possible. Sure, some of them will shake out. Some of them will be dead ends. But others, I'm saying that the answer isn't going to come from one person anymore. It's going to come from a group like this, exactly the opposite of what what's her name? Here it is, Margaret Wortham. Right here. Wrote this book. Very good book. Read it. Physics on the Fringe. Our group is in here. I'm even listening here. That's not why I'm asking you to read it. That has nothing to do with it. But what she says when she went on the radio on her national tour in this book, you know what she said? Someone said on NPR radio, I don't know, it was in Boston somewhere. The person asked her, I remember because I was following every word, because you were talking about us all over the world. And she goes, well, one guy says, well, this group, will anybody come out of there? And he was worried. He was almost like, well, you know, we have our universities and we have all these people, millions and billions of dollars and millions of students being taught this. You think somebody outside the mainstream is going to blow this all away and come up with something that'll make us look, and he was doing that because inside he didn't say it, but he says, make us look stupid. And you know what she said? Margaret Wortham, who wrote something in her book for me here saying, you know, keep up the great work. She even says that. She reads our emails. I know, I trace them and I get traces back. She opens them up. She said, 100% nothing will come out of this group. And it's not because it's a challenge for me in this group to come up. It makes me think, what does that mean? It means that in her mind, you have to be in the university because that's the correct thing. You can't just blow it away and come up with a different model. She's in that old school, as many people are, who say we have to wait for the next Einstein to come along. We don't want to call him Einstein. He's wrong. I mean, you got to throw that's a bad branch. It's a dead end. Let's say the next Newton. That's a very good person to put down. Next Newton to come along. And that person will give us, la la. I'm saying no. We've gotten to the point where the human brain is now understanding enough about the universe that no person is going to be able to hack it all. That we may be able to come up with a system. The ether system may be very good and be able to be used and maybe used for 100 years. The particle model, maybe if it comes to a lot of things, if the particle model, we write our book, which is the physics book we're writing based on the particle model. We can describe all these things that no one has a physicality for. And the engineers goes, wow, this is the first time in my life I've ever seen someone give a real physicality to a magnetic field. I'm going to see what we're doing. Guess who's doing that? My father. He's putting two resistors together, and our particle model is predicting a difference between those that are not predicted in electrical engineering. So the question is, if that model works, and an ether model works, and then a lattice model works, and people are using that, who's right? Is iOS, the operating system for iPhone and Mac, right? Is DOS, the operating system for Windows, right? Is Linux, the open source operating system, is that one right? Linux runs a lot of things in the world. Windows runs a lot of things in the world. Apple certainly runs a lot of things in the world. What are we going to throw them all? If we were in the university and we made an analogy, we'd all say, ho, 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 those are stupid. Those are all wrong. And if you ask the average person walking on this planet, they're going to laugh right back at you and say, you can say whatever you want theoretically, but it doesn't mean squat. Because if your model is so good, then your model should be doing things for the universe. That's what should be happening. That's really important. And so the answer to the question is, why do we have so many models? We've gotten to a point where human knowledge it's gotten so far that no one of these brains is going to hold it all, or can. So we got to cooperate. We've got to work on each other's models. We have to help each other's models, because that model may be better for this and maybe this one for that. If you stick and cling to the idea that we are only discovering the way the universe works in the model for it, then I think today and age, you're missing the boat, because everything is pointing. I didn't come up with this. I'm just looking at the world around us. I may be the first person to sort of recognize this for physics and say, wow, maybe multiple models are going to work, because we've solved things in the particle model that the etherists have a real hard time or can't solve at all. Maybe. We don't know. So regardless, what that means is to us, as we critical thinkers, those of you out there who are my subscribers, those people out there, you guys can subscribe to a model. Like this one person was saying, she is Electric Universe and Unsiger. Electric Universe. People like to think about the universe that way. Go for it. The Electric Universe should take that to the limit. They should try to push that model as far as they can go. Even if I have objections to it, because they're basing it on their assumptions is there's electric charge is a fundamental thing. You can't break it down anymore. There's no way to explain it to anyone. The electric fields exist. We don't care what those are. Those are fundamental. That runs the entire universe. That's fine. One particle. You come up with one particle, like a string, which is absolutely invented. It's not real. But if you want to then build it all from there, you go for it. Try to do it. You know, eventually, what will happen is these models will have more and more or less and less support from actual experiments that, according to that model, should do this and either confirm it. That is, this model says we should do this and we've never done this before. And if we do this in the physical world, your model says this should happen and it does, that's a good model. Does that prove the model? No, nothing proves any model. So that's my big statement to you. You can choose something that really floats your boat, a model that is intuitive to you, that you like, but you should always look at other models, always, because you can be inspired by them. You should also be on the lookout, because it could be, and this will happen just the same way, eventually a model will fall out, or will have something better come along, and that will, the models that we're working on will just go by the wayside and something else will come along. The other thing is too, is you don't have to always keep your eyes open, and you don't have to even help other people. Stick to what you're doing and keep going forward. Just know this is a fact, and I tell everybody, and I've been telling this for over almost 2 decades, that if you work in isolation, people say, oh, that's really good. And I've talked about this, and I had big arguments with people, my subscribers. If you work in isolation, there is one thing you're giving up. And that is, well, 2 things. One, people's criticisms of what you're doing, unless you take a look, unless you turn around and listen to that and really take it to heart. And number 2, people who do look at your stuff are inspired and make a better model than you. That's what happens. So as you are like this in your world, with your own terminology, with your own model, I myself am looking at all of them. I always do. I get another book on what people call a crazy model. I'm looking at it. You know why? Because they may have found a truth that I never found. A truth in the sense of something that really explains something. I love Jeff Yee's model because I know I'm going to steal the heck from it. But that's what it's all about. You get inspired by the people's work. That means Jeff Yee is doing amazing stuff. If I, Dave D. Hilster, the master of the universe, I'm kidding, folks. I'm just making a joke. Okay? I'm kidding. But if I take from him and I learn from him and I use it in my own model, that's nice. That's great. He can say, you know, hey, something I thought of, somebody liked. Somebody grab a hold of it. Electric Universe, like I said, people gravitate to that. I think I will say this. This is my opinion about the Electric Universe. The Electric Universe are for people looking for one thing to solve the universe. And I think, in my opinion, that's not the way it works. Because I believe in infinity, and there's going to be a lot more than just one thing. It can be more electrical. That is great. But to say look at our model. Our model says there's gravitational fields, there is light, there are waves of particles that come and will transmit information, and there are particles that flow together. You know, the electric part of the universe, what people talk about is the flowing together particles. What I see the electric universe is discovering are where those flows are happening, and those flows don't only happen in this battery, which in the magnet and the battery are very much similar. There are flows of particles going around this outside that I can't see, just like I can't see the air. But the electric universe, and according to our model, is just finding all of those places that those little G1 particles can go around in the Earth and form a magnetic field. They can go from star to star. They can even go between massive amounts of stars. Yeah, G1 particles travel billions of light years. So just be careful. Understand where you're going. You don't understand where you're going unless you look at other models out there. So that's the kind of thing, that's my big spiel for tonight. You know, take it for where you want, but I will say right now the models are getting better and better, and they're not congealing down to one, and I don't see that necessarily that's going to be happening or needs to happen. I think what's going to happen is we're at a point, until we get enough minds together working on a model long enough, like maybe the electric universe, that maybe something will be solved, and that will make a shift. But it won't be one person. Even the electric universe isn't one person. They all put it like, you know, Thornhill. I know him. I've talked with him many times. He's a brilliant guy. I love him. He's very humble. Really is a humble guy, and I like a lot of his work. You know, there's a lot of things I don't follow. I'm into the old ancient stuff. You know, Venus coming in, all that stuff. Did Venus come in 30,000 years ago? I can't say I wasn't here. I don't see evidence for it, but I'm not saying that it couldn't. You can't say not. I haven't looked in it enough, but that's not the point. The point is they should work as far and keep pushing it as much as they can. We should help each other with that. When we go to a conference, I will tell you, if you have your own model, the best way to make it better is to watch everybody else all the time, because you're going to find out maybe somebody has a better model. You can jump ship even from your own model, or you're going to find things in that model you're going to say, I can use. We did that. My father's talked about why there was color with the different heat from a candle and all that stuff. And he goes, hey, the Aetherist guy, Duncan Shaw, who's an ex-Supreme Court justice from Canada, love him dearly. He loves debate. He's a great guy. I love talking with him. But he said, you know, hey, I can use that for my ether model. My dad said, go right ahead, use it. That's why this group and these conferences are so important, is because we've got to get together, and those things have to happen. And in fact, this is going to be the theme that I am going to talk about at our upcoming conference, and what this is, and try to get people on board with that idea. So that's my cat herding thing, and so I'm also an electric universe guy, but I'm not entirely wedded to it. Good. My dad and I are a particle model stuff, and my dad's freaking out right now about it. He didn't like it because in his mind he's hacking. He can't get the particle accelerator. So it was yesterday. He almost comes to me when he says that to me. Normally it's like, Dave, can you think about it? Can you hack it? And then 2 days later, I'll talk to my dad. Hey, Dad, what about this? I bet this is the way it works. And then he goes, I didn't think of that. So that's the way to go. Yeah, I love it, Rhino 41153. I'm also an electric universe model guy, but I'm not entirely wedded to it. Great answer, because my father and I are the first to say the particle model is really doing well, but we're not married to it. Okay, I see people are still joining in and out. If you have any more questions, but I will go through one more time for those people who came in late. This is pretty cool. This is a little fun stuff. I've already run this, but some of those people haven't seen it. These are the stingers. What are stingers? They're little logo, 3D logo kind of things that I got from a place called Render Forest. I subscribe to them, allowing me to make a bunch of them, 5 a month. Which means before it cost thousands of dollars, now it costs about 100 and a little bit for an entire year, and I'd be able to generate these for our channels. So if you haven't seen them, I'm going to take them one at a time. I've already made one for myself, one for the Particle Guru, my father, one for the Energy Wave, and I've also made one from Nick of Time. He hasn't approved his, but I will show it to you anyways. But this is pretty cool. So I designed the logos. Those are mine. I chose the templates that they had, some of this color schemes, but the templates are pretty much from Render Forest. So if you want to do one, you can. It costs you anywhere from $9 to $30 to make one. You can customize it with the words and stuff. You can only do so much, but it's pretty cool. So let's take a look at Particle Guru, the stinger that I wrote for my father, that he will start using at the beginning of his video, so he doesn't have to say all that spiel. Here you go. Particle Guru, youtube.particle.guru, not .com, .guru. Here you go. Pretty cool, huh? You see the particle logo that I made for him, which is actually a P in the middle, made out of the negative space of a bunch of particles that are flowing in waves of particles, which is his wave particle duality solution, which is pretty cool. Now the next one is Energy Wave. Take a notice that the logo that I made for Jeff Yee, love his model again, is an E and a W. The W looks like a wave, and the E looks like the E for energy equations. So that's where that came from. Put them together to make it look quite neat. So the Energy Wave is in this. I thought this was a really great template for him. I made it. He accepted. He wants it. He's going to be using it in his next, not his next videos, because he takes time to make his videos. I like his videos because they're not like mine, which are thrown together and talk off the top of your head. I have a faster schedule that I try to work with and not do them as I want to do them more frequently. It's what you pay for, but he pay for in the sense of doing them fast. But take a look at this one. He really liked it. He wanted me to then generate a high def, and this is a higher definition of the Energy Wave Theory by Jeff Yee. Go to energywave.com or .org. I can't remember. Either way. All right, here it comes. Pretty neat, huh? It comes with music and all that. You can actually change it if you want. And I will do 2 more, of course, before we go here, and that is for the Nick of Time, which he has not approved, but I did send to him. Hopefully he will. I think this is really great for his stinger. So here goes, and the logo, you can get the Nick in this time. Nick, of course, is a Nick in something. You'll see that. It's sort of obvious, I think, a Nick of Time. I think it's got to be obvious pretty quick. But I think this turned out real nice as well. This is not high def. You'll see the low. You're going to see right here, actually, right here, you're going to see a watermark, which if he approves, I will generate, because I only have so many a month I can do through my subscription. So if he does, and if you, I'll get to that in the end. Okay, here's Nick of Time. Make sure you do subscribe to these people. They're really great videos, well worth it. If you like this channel, you're going to like them too. And finally, I have mine, Dissident Science, which was the first one. I actually generated in 1080p, which is the higher quality. It's not 4K, but it's right below that. But I thought this was really worked out for my logo. Again, the logo I made myself, and you can see right there part of it. But this is going to be my stinger, and from now on you're going to hear that long spiel I've done. I've done it for so long, I'm just tired of that spiel. So here comes, this is my stinger for Dissident Science. If you haven't seen it, some of you have, before we wrap this up tonight. Here we go. Dissident Science. Again, those are short. It's just a way to open things up. And if you are interested in doing a YouTube channel, I know Adam Lohr I'm talking with. Hopefully he will eventually do one. But you know, he's still working on his last theory. But if you are a person that has a YouTube channel and you're looking to do something like that, I'd like to help you out. You know, if it's, you know, in an area that we're, you know, scientific. But even if not, you know, maybe I can take a look at you and help you out with it. But so we can help each other, especially if you have your own model and you want to work on it. You should hang out with people like us who have models already, so you don't get into the pitfalls of your new models. That is something that can happen, of course, and that's why you should, you know, hang out with us Saturday mornings from 10 a.m. to noon. We have our CMPS videos. If you have something to talk about, Illuminati, Socrates, you have your own channel and you've been working many years. I want to give a talk. You will be introduced to our people who we have. Our active members are about over 300 active and less active members. We have hundreds of them, but they will certainly be very interested and will not hold back on their positive comments, but also things that they might see problematic. So that's always will help you out. So anyways, yeah, let me see here if there's some other comments here. Electron Universe guy, okay, yep. When we were at the when and where is the conference? I'm in Southern California area. The conference is on the West Coast. It's at the University of Washington in Seattle. Like I said, the conference go to, you know, I need to show you the video. I have a video. I will do that next time. Come next time, remind me. I'll put that in there. I should put that in here anyways, because I think any of you who can make it and you like this kind of stuff that you see on my channel, that's all we do there, and it's great. It's very unintimidating. Just when you think you can't talk and do anything, you feel like you're going to be left out, you won't be. People aren't there snooty in any way. They'll be happy to talk with you, happy to answer questions. One of the great things about people like myself and other people in our organization is that our questions will give you satisfying answers. They don't come like, oh, well, that's just the way it is. You are stupid if you don't understand it. Mass increases as you close to the speed of light. That's just the way the universe works. We're not going to tell you why or care about why. We actually will tell you when we don't know, when we will tell you about straight out about the mainstream physics and cosmology, where those things go wrong and why. You'll hear extremely interesting talks every year. I hear a talk that I always take. It's always in my head. You know, last year it was the galaxy distribution by Ray Gallucci, which we have an article on sciencewoke.org. Go there at sciencewoke.org, sign up, know when you're coming out. So we are at the University of Washington from June 26th, which is a Wednesday, through Saturday. If you can't make it every day, no problem. You can come on Friday and Saturday. We do things on every day. It's worth it. Friday evening we have a banquet. We will be recognizing an amazing mind, Dr. Gerald Pollack. He came up with the fourth state of water. Whoops, glitch. Hello. Don't glitch on me now. Okay. Glitched there. Sorry about that. Glitched. But I'm glitching again. Maybe I need to stop. Hello. I'm glitching again, folks. I'm glitching. So I'm going to get out of here. But again, look at 2019.naturalphilosophy.org. And you will find, in fact, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get out of the browser. That should help a lot. There we go. And anyways, we're from June 26th to June 29th. Wednesday to Saturday happens during the day. In the evening, we have free to talk to each other. We usually have things going on. Friday, we have our banquet. Saturday, we have open things, and a lot of times we have some things going on. We're looking to do some more small skits. It will be broadcast live, but it isn't the same. It is 1,000% better being in person, because you can sit and talk to people all day long about this stuff and ask questions. When you watch it on our YouTube, it is YouTube Live. We ask for a donation of $50. If you do watch that, it's totally voluntary. You don't have to. But we do broadcast in very good quality, high definition. We have the slides in digital format. It's mixed literally with multicam right away. We use this. You can see our videos from last year. They literally go live to YouTube. They're there for forever. But I would tell you, I would highly recommend you come, especially if you have somebody like Adam Lohr. You should come. You have a great beginning of your theory. You need to be hanging around these people so you will not spin your wheels on things that we all spun our wheels on without having the benefit of somebody who has already been through it. So anyways, that is really cool. Rhino, the next conference at the University of Washington. Yep, thank you very much. Thank you for directing me to your father's channel. I had mentioned the right-hand rule the last time you held up the battery, and you told me to check it out on his channel, and I did, and it was good. Absolutely. It gives us the beginnings of why there's physical reasons for that. Right or wrong, Adam Lohr, thank you. You are a wonderful attitude. Not too many people with their own theories want to stay away in isolation. I'm fine the way I am. Let me just work on it. You can do that, but I will tell you, the people who I've seen do the best are the ones who circulate and actually are out there working with other people. So yeah, Ryan. Oh yeah, I'm going. Great to see you. I'm going to see you there. We can still hear when it was glitching. Good. That's good. Definitely going to go to try to make the conference. Adam Lohr, I would highly recommend. Every person that I've convinced to go there comes up to me and shakes my hand for 2 minutes, just gushing all over and says, I'm so glad I came. I'm so glad I came. And the number one reason is they say, somebody understands me. If you are already science woke and you haven't been around people who can understand you, or even if you are just sort of mildly that and are questioning it and people are looking at you really strange, like, what are you talking about? You know, did your football team win? That's all I care about, or something like that. I'm being, you know, facetious, but you want to really be able to talk about things at, you know, philosophical level with brilliant people and great people. You know, these people are not like meanies or snooty or they think they know more than you. They're just really great people, really smart. It's always best to be around those people. Your own work, your own theory will just get better and better. So anyways, thank you so much, people. I really appreciate it. I had a lot of people sticking around. I know there's a lot of new people coming here. Spread the news. The more people that come to this channel, the better everything's going to be. I'm interested in getting as many people on this channel as possible, not because I want fame. I don't care about that. What it gives us is more power to be able to get all these great scientists and all these great things going and moving more. We have great projects that should be funded, like the expanding Earth being plotted on Google Maps so that we could actually do geology and paleontology and paleo fauna and flora, all of those things better. We have all these things that could be funded, and once we get more and more people interested in this, we'll certainly get people be able to do way more. So tell people, have them subscribe, come to our conference, let people know about it. Thank you so much, and as I always say, stay critical, stay thinking. I am David D. Hilster, your science therapist, getting you to the promised land of staying and becoming more science woke, or becoming science woke for the first time. Ciao for now.